proud to be his wife.
Amen.
He was murdered by our government during an illegal roadblock known as a kill stop in Oregon on January 26, 2016, the day before his 55th birthday. He was in Oregon with many other patriots standing for our personal property rights, for our ever-disappearing liberties, who he considered his neighbor, Dwight and Susie. And he was standing there for you. Right from the beginning of their peaceful demonstration, I'm going to change words here. Senator Wyden, Governor Brown, local officials used the national media outlets to demonize those patriots who were peacefully demonstrating. They would have had you believe that these patriots belonged to a white supremacist group, or that they were racist, that they were part of a sovereign citizen terrorist group, or just a bunch of religious nuts clinging to their guns and religion. But who were they really? I think that we've come to know them quite intimately. I have a story I wanted to kind of just tell you about. I've been traveling around a lot, and I meet people on the plane, and sometimes I wonder, oh, should I, talk to this person next to me or not? And I had a really lovely conversation with a woman from Colorado who was on the opposite side of the political spectrum than I'm on, leaning very left, voted for Obama, probably in the Clintons. And that's really not what I would have done.
Me neither.
She was such a sweet lady.
Con artist jerk that he was, he didn't trick me.
She was such a wonderful lady. She sat and she listened to me, and she asked me what I did for a living. Boy, if I had to change that answer from what I used to do. But what was interesting about our conversation was when she learned who I was, she didn't know who I was. She hadn't heard of my husband, LaVoy. She didn't know he had been murdered. She didn't know anything about the Bundys. I said, yes, they released a film of his murder. You can see it online. She was an editor. And so we were talking about books because my husband had written his book. And anyway, so we had something in common. And she says, I'll go home and I'll look that up. And I got an email from her last week. It was very touching, very heartfelt. She had watched that video, and even though we were on opposite ends of the political spectrum, ideology, everything, she saw what it was for what it was. It was murder. Now, had the media, this is my opinion, if I had a tie, I'd look it over my shoulder, this is my opinion, but it's my opinion that because the media was so organized with their buzzwords, supremacist group, sovereign citizen terrorist, militia, armed terrorist, pounding that into the populace day in, hour by hour, minute by minute as they were up there, it created their opinion. This woman at home and watched the video without all of those buzzwords streaming into her mind as she was watching the video was able to formulate her own opinion. And she saw it for what it was, and that was murder. The media has a huge responsibility. They're supposed to be unbiased. They're supposed to be dealing with facts and truth, and they do not.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the people who have started their own news outlets. I'm grateful for all those honest sources that we can turn to. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about my husband. Who was LaVoy? Well, he was a man of God first, and he was a family man. We have 12 children, and we now have 25 grandchildren. So I'm a few up on Michelle. But I remember running from a job just like myself on my first grandchild, my grandson that was born, and I ran out of there lickety-split, and I couldn't wait to get there. So I'm so excited for her. LaVoy loved his life. He lived every day to the fullest. He loved to play, and he was a huge tease. He spent many years working and saving to realize his own dream, which was to have his own ranch. He was a man who loved his neighbor, and there weren't boundary lines for what he considered a neighbor. He gave freely of what he had. He was courageous, he was strong, he was principled, and he was trustworthy. He was loving, he was kind, and he was my friend. He loved his freedom, his agency given to him by God, and he loved his children and grandchildren so much that he was willing to stand for them. He loved living in America, and he knew that he was blessed to be here. He loved this country, and he stood for liberty when he was called. Now, I've also been asked to kind of talk about some of the things I've experienced since he was murdered. And over the past year and a half, I've been through quite a lot. I've had many challenges, as you all can imagine. But what I didn't expect was to be abused by my own government, to be followed by the FBI, and I know there is one here, to the different speaking engagements that I have attended throughout the country. The FBI has asked to raid one particular event. I've had venues back out because of their intimidation and lies. The FBI labeled me as a sovereign citizen terrorist. I know that this is the thing. They love to mess with the words, don't they? Isn't patriot also demonized at this point, people?
Wow.
They're truth perverts. That's all they
The
know.
FBI has put me on an anti-government watch list. And I am not anti-government. I am, as was my husband, pro-responsible, limited government. We believed in our First Amendment and Second Amendment rights. We believe the Constitution to be the law of the land, and we should all stand up to defend and protect that. FBI Director Comey, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, Senator Wyden, Governor Brown wanted their voices silenced. They could not allow the virus of liberty to spread. Our patriots in Oregon and in Bundy, and the Bundys down in Bunkerville, were a threat to their un-American, socialistic, communistic world order agenda.
Amen.
Now there's a glimmer of hope, as 2 weeks now, that they indicted that FBI agent for lying and taking evidence from the scene. Yeah.
They don't do that kind of stuff.
Let's hope that the other 4 who helped him in that also are indicted.
Yes.
Let's hope. Let's hope that this media that is here tonight will be the first up there in Oregon to report on it. Let's hope. In Ephesians 6:12 it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against power, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." I think we see a lot of that today. Very corrupt. Samuel Adams said, "If ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats in government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin." Let that sink in. Let that sink in just a little bit. We have a room full of patriots here. I think he's talking to you. The abuse I feel that I've been subjected to by our government also has continued by the BLM. The BLM has continued to ignore any contact with us. They have taken the property, or I should say they have just killed the permit and said that is no longer in effect. And I'm going to read this because my attorneys gave it to me. My attorney said that communicating with the BLM for almost a full year now, trying to secure my right under my husband's permit as a transferee of my husband's rights under testimony disposition. Instead of following this clear federal regulation, the BLM instead obfuscated, refused to acknowledge that I was my husband's wife and widow. They denied that I had any right to that permit and pretended that it simply was terminated upon his death. We showed them federal regulation that authorized the transfer of the rights of the permit to me, and instead they obfuscated and ignored it again. To this point, they have refused to even acknowledge my rights under a clear federal regulation 4110.2-3E, which is a transfer of grazing preference, and instead ignore me and continue their obfuscation, thus forcing my cattle off my land and forcing me to go through the litigation process for almost a full year now. Let's go over that again. First, trying to get an agency to work responsibly with a rancher is apparently too much to ask for these days, and when and if they deny me my right to operate under my husband's permit, which so far they will not do officially, I am then, second, required to appeal to that very same agency for a review of their own decision before I'm allowed to then litigate in court. Third, because they won't even give us, my attorney and I, the courtesy of an expeditious denial, we have been forced to go through what could be seen as a separate but equally slow channel to find remedy, which is through a congressperson's office. And in summary, the effort required for a simple American to exercise their right is so monumental as to make it nearly impossible to earn our rights. To top it off, it's also important to note that if we don't go through this process, I can be denied all rights to litigate in the future for not having exhausted my administrative remedy, which ironically, the administrative remedy is sought from the very same administrators who have been ignoring and disruptive to me in the first place. I think we were talking earlier about the abuse that we are experiencing from many different ABC alphabet agencies that they have created. And in reference to the BLM, they are creating regulations in-house. They are trying to enforce that. They are not asking us to vote on anything. This is not the way it was meant to be. I don't understand this. I'm just trying to survive like a lot of you and to put my life back together after the murder of my husband. And then they treat me this way. Why? Why am I the subject of their abuse? I'll tell you why. to make an example out of me. If they can do this to a widow, if they can continue to abuse the patriot prisoners, then others will think twice before they will stand up or step out of line. Well, I am determined not to let my husband's voice be buried with his body.
We are LaVoy!
You know, I was sitting here listening to Brianna. We all have different challenges in this crazy thing that we're in. All of my children are grown. And my husband was concerned for them in the truck. Concerned that those men would make it home to their kids. He repeated that to me many, many times. He's gonna hear from me when I get there, you know. Then I'll hug him and kiss him. Don't you love these pictures?
Yes.
He was a real person. He was a real man. He was just a regular guy, standing for what he believed to be true. He was a real man who had courage and didn't want to back down because he knew the price that we would pay, our children are going to pay, if we don't stand. One of the ways that I am raising funds to fight my legal battles with the BLM and the wrongful death is to sell my husband's book. You know, he was a great storyteller. Their family are all great storytellers.
It's a great book.
Yeah, thank you. He wanted to teach. That's what he was really good at, having all those boys in our home throughout the years, because we did that therapeutic foster care for 18 years. And he was just an excellent teacher. So he put his ideas into a story form, into a book. And it talks about loyalty, about bravery, about freedom, about individualism versus collectivism. Talks about God and family. His characters are really well developed to where you hate the bad guys and you love the good guys. But it will leave you asking yourself some questions like, am I prepared? Have I prepared my children? What kind of person am I? What would I do if I was put in this situation? And I really love what one of my friends said about this book, and he said this: a major theme of the book is that the people we each are before the collapse will be the people we are the day after the collapse. So spend your time now being the people you want to be. It's about preparing your children, teach them about faith, hard work, justice, and freedom. LaVoy's personal knowledge of joy and love within a family is very enviable, leaving you wanting to spend more time doing what you love and with who you love, inspiring you not to waste time. And what I would say is, I hope that the book helps to inspire you to continue to move forward in this cause for liberty, to restore our lost liberties. Did you play the video? There's some more pictures, but I'm not sure where I was with that. There you go. just love bringing LaVoy with me. I love hearing his voice. I love hearing what he has to say, and he says it so much better than I do.
And God, American, stand. The night is far spent. The Constitution has been shredded. But it lives in your heart. You know what freedom is and what freedom isn't. Stand. Because when you stand, others will stand with you. And God can't stand with you if you don't stand. Once you stand, you can expect the hand of providence to be over you. Don't matter how it ends, it matters how you stand. This is LaVoy Finicum. One Cowboy stands for freedom. See you later.
I love how he says, "I'll see you later." That was so like him. Samuel Adams said, "It doesn't take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen to set the brush fires of freedom in the minds of men."
I'm irate.
I would like to think that LaVoy, the patriot that he was, set a few brush fires of freedom and liberty in the hearts and minds of many of you across America. That his sacrifice, his stand for freedom, for liberty and agency was not in vain. And, you know, I know it to be true. I know it to be true because when I travel and I meet so many of you, I'm watching how, whether it was the Bundy story or my husband's story or someone else's story like Joe Roberts or the Hages or the Hammonds, and the list is endless, the Dan sisters, people in Texas, it goes on. They are inspiring many Americans across this country to get up and get activated and get involved in. I want to say again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for me and for my family, and for the love and the prayers, cards, financial support. Thank you. I love you, and I'm so grateful
Love
that I got
you.
we're a family. God bless you.
I'm standing for Joe. Joe flags are fired. Don't look at Joe. I'm standing for him.
We got two more speakers left. Two more speakers. Thank you for